Welcome back to Daily Kingdom Growth, where we explore God's Word and His timeless truths for our lives today. I'm Mitchell Beecher, and I'm so glad that you are here today. And if you missed our last episode, we dove into Exodus 19, 20, and 21, where we witnessed the Israelites standing at Mount Sinai to receive the Ten Commandments and the additional laws that shaped their community. But don't worry, I will catch you up as we go. But let me ask you this question. Have you ever wondered how ancient laws can still speak into our lives today, or how they all point straight to Jesus? Stick around, because today we're diving into Exodus 22 through 24, and trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. So let's jump in. Exodus 22, God continues to provide laws that govern daily life, focusing on justice and compassion. So let's set the scene at a high level. Imagine a society that doesn't just punish wrongdoing, but seeks to restore what's broken. For example, in Exodus 22, verse 1, we read, "Whoever steals an ox or sheep and slaughters it or sells it must pay back 5 head of cattle for the ox and 4 sheep for the sheep." This isn't about the punishment. It's about restitution, making things right. Now, think about how revolutionary this was for the ancient cultures. I mean, restitution elevated the dignity of victims while holding offenders accountable in ways that were restorative and not just punitive. But it doesn't stop there. If we look at Exodus 22, verses 22 and 23, "Do not take advantage of the widow or the fatherless. If you do and they cry out to me, I will certainly hear their cry." See, God's heart is for the vulnerable, the widows, orphans, foreigners. He's saying, if you hurt them, you're hurting me. And this goes beyond legal obligation. It is a call to embody God's compassion. In fact, these laws extend to everyday ethical behavior, such as lending without exploiting others or respecting the dignity of the poor. Every detail in this chapter is steeped in God's justice and mercy. Doesn't this kind of remind us a lot of Jesus? He not only upheld these principles, but he lived them perfectly. Remember when he defended the woman caught in adultery? That wasn't just mercy. It was justice in action, protecting her from an unjust crowd. So how do we live this out today? Well, maybe it's advocating for someone in need. Maybe it's being a voice for the voiceless, or even making amends when we've wronged someone. These laws changed, and they challenge us, and they change our hearts to be people who seek to restore, not just reprimand. And in a world that is often feels chaotic, don't you think this kind of justice is desperately needed? Yeah. So the laws of Exodus 22 remind us that God's freedom operates on principles of restoration, dignity, and compassion for all. Now, if we move on to chapter 23, we see laws about fairness, Sabbath rest, and worship. One of my favorite verses is right here at Exodus 23, verse 3. "Do not follow the crowd in doing wrong. When you give testimony in a lawsuit, do not pervert justice by siding with the crowd." Isn't that relevant today? How often do we face pressure to go along with something we know that isn't right? God calls his people to stand apart, to live differently. We also see the principles of the Sabbath in Exodus 23, verse 12. 6 days do your work, but on the 7th day do not work, so that your ox and your donkey may rest, and so that the slave born in your household and the foreigner living among you may be refreshed. See, the Sabbath isn't just about rest. It's about trust. It's saying, God, I believe you can sustain me even when I'm not striving. And let's not forget the festivals. These were times of celebration and remembrance of God's provision. Doesn't that make you just think of Jesus? I mean, I know it does for me. He says in Matthew 11, verse 28, "Come to me, all who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." Jesus is our ultimate Sabbath rest, the one who provides for us and reminds us to pause and celebrate his goodness. And finally, we arrive at Exodus 24, one of the most significant moments in the Old Testament, the confirmation of God's covenant with Israel. Picture this. Moses reads the book of the covenant to the people, and they respond in Exodus 24, verse 3. When Moses went and told the people all the Lord's words and laws, they responded with one voice, "Everything the Lord has said, we will do." Then comes the blood of the covenant. Exodus 24, verse 8 says, Moses then took the blood, sprinkled it on the people, and said, "This is the blood of the covenant that the Lord has made with you in accordance with all these words." This foreshadows Jesus' words at the Last Supper. When Jesus says, "This is my blood of the covenant, which is poured out for many for the forgiveness of sins." And if that's not enough, Moses and the leaders, they go up to the mountain and they see God. Well, they don't completely see God, but they see his feet and eat and drink in his presence. This is a glimpse of the communion we will have with God through Jesus. I mean, just incredible. We're wrapping up today's episode. We journey through Exodus 22, 23, and 24. These chapters, they show us a God who values justice, compassion, rest, and relationship. And here's my challenge for you. Take one of these principles from this episode, maybe standing for justice or practicing rest or committing to your relationship with God, maybe for the first time, and live it out today and the rest of the week. And don't forget, this covenant story points us straight to Jesus, who fulfilled all of these laws and invites us to a new covenant of grace. If this episode blessed you, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this channel. Share this video who needs the encouragement. And don't forget to hit that bell button on YouTube so you will not miss our next episode. Feel free to visit our website at bekingdombuilders.com, and I'll see you in the next episode as we dive into the designs of the tabernacle and their incredible meanings.